So I think we'll get started. Hello, everyone. I'm Yassin Eldeeb. I work at the Guild, doing all kinds of stuff in Rust and TypeScript. You've probably seen a few of our talks already here. And so today, my talk's title is Cross-Platform GraphQL and State Management with React Native. I want to talk about something a little different than my colleagues who have represented the Guild today, or this conference. And I know the title is quite packed, so we'll quickly break it down in a bit so that everyone is on board. So nowadays, as you could probably tell, the web dominates the GraphQL space. If you look at production apps, blog posts, tutorials, YouTube videos, etc., there's very little resources about building mobile apps with GraphQL, and this was my main motivation for this workshop. And GraphQL knowledge is, of course, a prerequisite for this workshop. So we're going to use React Native for this workshop, which is a framework that was created by Facebook that allows developers to build mobile applications that works on multiple platforms just using JavaScript and React. And it gives you the ability to render the native components just written in JavaScript and React. So instead of building separate apps for like iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, etc., it enables you to develop multiple platforms within a single code base. So this is really cool. And it uses Hermes, which is a JavaScript runtime. So it's a little slower, not like really native. But it's easy to use, and it works on like all of the platforms. So that's why it's mostly used in the ecosystem. And specifically, we're going to be using Expo, which is an open source platform and framework for building React Native apps that provides a managed development environment. So it lets you, it has like an Expo Go. So this application has like a hot module reload. So when you change something, it automatically changes it. And it hides all of the native code. So you can just work with JavaScript and focus on your business logic of the application that you're working on. It's also have much less configuration than working with like pure React Native. So we're going to use that for simplicity. And the second part of the title, which is state management. So our app is going to involve managing state. I think this video should play. Oh, not this. OK. So our app is going to involve managing state. And so we have to know what state management is. State management is a pattern to synchronize the state of the application throughout all of the components of the application. It's designed to make it easy to handle data coming from the database, re-rendering components when necessary, caching, offline supports, and provides a unified API for querying, mutating, and subscribing for data, with respect to performance, of course. So as you can see in the GIF image here, there's two buttons, increment and decrement. And then as the state changes, all of the UI components that uses the specific state automatically updates. So this is basically what state management is. And as you can see in like the graph, there's like a view, actions, a state, which is like very popular terms for how the state is mutated, is used. So actions is what you use to mutate the data. View is what like the usage of the state, and state is just the data that you store in the state. And so this workshop is going to be focused mainly on two sections: setting up the GraphQL and the state management layers with React Native. So these are two separate parts, but we're going to combine them because the main goal here of the workshop is that we're going to go through a production-ready setup that you can use for your next project. This setup has been a result of many iterations that I've worked while developing this mobile app 3 years ago. It was called Memos. It was like an open source, self-hosted cloud provider, like cloud. It's like Google Photos, but it's open source on MIT. I don't know why they did it. There was some reason behind it 3 years ago, probably COVID. So let's rewind a bit before we start. because we sometimes forget the original reasons of why GraphQL was created in the first place. As you might know already, Facebook, or Meta now, created GraphQL to be used on their mobile application, which solved a set of issues that most apps currently and used to face. Unlike the web, with mobile apps, you would realize, oh, OK, there are quite a few crucial things that you need to be considerate of that you never really think about when you develop web applications. And it's apparent because the user experience is affected. In those cases, we have, first of all, the network requests are much more expensive in mobile than on the web. And because the network module on the mobile devices has to make quite some decisions, use Wi-Fi or cellular, switching between 5G, 4G, et cetera, it's computationally expensive. And the second part, which is dependent on what we have discussed in the point above, which is the data usage and the battery life, which are partially affected by the network calls that we have discussed. And lastly, offline support. Most mobile users now expect you to have offline support for the application. Basically, everything that is derived from having much more limited resources to play with when it comes to mobile, unlike your home setup, which is So let's get back to the workshop focus, which is GraphQL and state management. And so the first question would be, which GraphQL client library should I use? Which is, there's so many. There's Relay, Polo Client, Oracle, GraphQL Request, and many more. They're popping out every month. It's a lot of libraries. And you've got feature-rich libraries like Relay and Apollo. And you've got simpler ones that are much easier to use, but not really feature-rich, like Oracle and GraphQL Request. And here I would say there's not much to debate here, to be honest. It's a matter of your preference and use case. There's no bad and good one. Relay and Apollo clients are much more feature complete, as I mentioned. And Oracle and GraphQL Request are lightweight, simple solutions. Yeah, and there's the Reddit post of someone asking it. It's quite common. But in this workshop, though, I'm going to be using a unique setup that doesn't involve any of those. I want something very light and works only as a fetcher, and I will tell you why in a second. And so let's set up our app and GraphQL client. Unfortunately, we have to have Xcode as a prerequisite, and it's not easy to set up. It's always full of issues. So if you want to follow along and have Xcode, that would be great. If not, we can follow along later. And so this is the command to create the Expo application. And if you want to follow along later, this is the QR code for the repository. So let's get started. Okay. And so we have here, this is the repository that you're going to find. Oh, you can see it. Second. Maybe drag it there. Come on. Okay. Should be VS Code here. Okay, yes, that should be it. GraphQL conf, and this is the repo that we're going to be working with. So we're going to go through some things first. We have the server directory, which is quite simple. So we have a schema.ts and have an index.ts. So this is just our GraphQL server setup that we're going to be using to fetch the data from our React Native application. We're using GraphQL Yoga. We're using the schema, which I'm going to go through in a bit. We have our just create Yoga instance, and we pass the schema. We create our Express app because I need to expose some or serve some images on the server, which we're going to be later using in the app. And I'm putting this Yoga instance on this /GraphQL path. And to the schema, this is basically just a very simple GraphQL API. I do boxing, so I was like, maybe just do boxing theme API. Anyone do martial arts here? Boxing. Amazing. So our schema is like just a query and fetches some users. And we have like an ID, name, email, avatar, bio, favorite combo, and a training partner. We're going to start this up. CD server, pm start. And so we have this, and we have our GraphQL API. We can query this thing. So we can just go there, which has the query that I want. And as you can see, we have all of the results for the GraphQL query that we're going to need in the application. Not this one. Back to the GraphQL conf. Come on. Okay. And so we're going to open another terminal and then go to the app and do an npmi just to install any missing dependencies. Okay, that's done. We're going to do npmi or npm run iOS, and this is going to run the iOS simulator. Okay, going to do this one. Maybe it's already running somewhere. This one. Yes, it's running there. GraphQL conf. Can you see this? Yeah. npm iOS. Okay. Device, iPhone 15. Can I open this up? Yeah, it's probably I'll try to use my hotspot if it's internet connection thing. npmi run iOS. Okay, yeah. We're going to see the app in a minute. This is the Expo Go, which is like the managed development kit that has like the hot module reload and stuff like that. And so this is an expected error. I have intentionally added a component, but without any data or any fetching logic, so that we can add it like along. And so for me, I'm just going to use Axios, and I'm going to tell you why in a second, why I use Axios and not like things like Apollo Client, Relay, or any other like libraries of the GraphQL libraries. I'm just going to do it raw, npm I, so Axios. And then once I have that, I'm going to go to the component, add my use state, data, set data, use state, add a use effect here. And we're going to wrap it. So we're going to get an Axios instance. We're going to post. We're going to need this URL, localhost 4000 / GraphQL. We're going to need this, the body, query, and then we're going to define our query at the top here. Get boxers list. We're going to hit back to our browser to get this exact query that we tried. Get this and pass it to the query. And the thing here, we need an await instance, but we can't use await inside a use effect, so we're going to just wrap it here within an async function and self-execute it. And we're going to get the result here. Const result. Just to make it clear here. And once we get it, we're going to set the data state to our result.data. And we should have a data instance here, but because TypeScript is not happy, you can just for now do it as any. I would not recommend it normally. npm run iOS. And then refresh. We're going to get the cannot read property users of undefined because we need to have a data. So we check before we load it that it's available first. We're going to reload. Open our Expo app, my app, possible unhandled rejection. Let me check the result here. R. Okay, maybe you could this. So post.
You have to say application JSON.
I think it's by default. The content type is already by default a JSON type.
Okay.
So it's a body and a query.
That's semicolons for the async.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
Wait,
for formatting.
Okay, you mean, oh, there's the, okay.
So for formatting, it's added automatically so that reader know which line is the end of it and stuff like that. Let me check. So it's in Axios here, and our server is running. We're gonna get a body. Maybe it's without the body. Let me check. Refreshing. Also one rejection. Let me try it here. So we have this, we have the body, the query. Get this query here. Oh yeah, we'll do this. Just go there. Not this one. Here. Okay, and then we go there. My query string, okay. Suppose. Oh, so it's supposed, yeah. So it's just, so this works. Why is my Axios not working here? Body, query.
Maybe you need to JSON stringify.
Hmm.
Because like you're sending a JSON object, right? Maybe it just goes over as bracket object, right?
I think it's a
don't
string.
need a body column.
Is it? Is it automatically there? Just let's see. Without this. Not this way. So do we get the result here? Yeah, we get it. You're right. So we get the result, but we get a map to undefined. So this is a different thing, which is data.users. I think it's data.data.data here. Weird. Yeah, and we got it. So on the spot debugging. Thank you. And so we get our list of boxers. We got Marcus, we get Joan, and we got like their favorite compos, like their bio, their training partner. And we have Jane here without a training partner because it's very aggressive. Look at his compo. And so once we have this now, let's get back to our presentation. Play. Yes. And so, this way, yes. Okay. Come on, what is this? This is all things. Here. Come on, I can't see this. Why is it there?
I think your mouse can go just like a side screen.
Yeah, it's weird. So I can't see it on my screen, but it's showing here.
It's not mirrored. It's like an extra desktop. It's like off to the side.
Yeah. Let me check.
So you gotta worry which side your screen is actually on.
Yeah.
Just like move your mouse to the side.
Yeah, here. Oh, okay. So I'll just move it here. It doesn't exist now. That's how we solve every problem. And so the next question, or after we have our GraphQL client set up here, let's get to the state management part. And again, back to the similar question. And I want to clarify something here that's usually overlooked and not very talked about. So as you could probably tell, there's like Redux, React Query, Xstate, like easy peasy, and all of these stuff. You probably at least use one of those, which is probably Redux, and which everybody hates. And here's the types of states, the states that to manage that I want to emphasize on, because it's not just one state or one type of state. Like there are multiple ones, and each one has different characteristics, which needs to be handled differently. So you have the most basic type of states, which is like the local state, and this is the locally scoped variables that you have in your application. These are the easiest. You have the global state. I'm going to illustrate it in a later slide. What does each of these means in like a real production app? And you have a server state, so any remote resources that is fetched like from a remote resource. And you have URL state. And with each of those, there comes cross-platform challenges, like persisting your cache, by storing it on the device. It depends on the platform, like which cache storage that you do store it in, and you have like the refetching of the stale data by capturing the user's focus events. So you know when you like you have a web app, an application, or anything, and then when you just close the app, or not close it, you put it in the background, and it would detect that you have unfocused on this app. So it would trigger that the stale data should be refetched. Same with like the Mac and Windows applications. You just have to unfocus from the applications, and that would trigger like an unfocus event, which would trigger a refetching of the stale data. So each of those depend on like a specific API per platform, and you've got also background fetching, which is what I mentioned a second ago, and many more. But those are like the most common one. And this is what I wanted to illustrate. So these are the types of states that I've just mentioned, but just shedding some light on like examples of how they exist in the applications you use. So you have got like server state, which is just the list of like the pictures. I've got like a global store action, which is the upload button. When you click it, there is an action that is triggered. You've got like a global state, which is what is storing the selected images in your application. And you've got the device persisted state, which is local state, but it's stored on the device, on the device cache store, and is retrieved offline without any remote access. Let's go to the next slide. And and I found that you don't really have to pick one because I always see this like you pick one state management and you just stick with it. You deal with its issues and stuff like that. And I found two specific ones that works really, really well together, especially with like mobile applications, especially cross-platform mobile applications, which is React Query and Easy Peasy. And I'm gonna illustrate in a second what is that, like why why did I choose those exactly? So React Query has a lot of features users expect from like a modern, smooth mobile application. You've got like auto refetching, so it detects when the data is stale and automatically reloads it. It got parallel queries, automatic garbage collection, scroll recovery. Scroll recovery means that when the data changes, you're not scrolled up to the beginning. Like the data is swapped without losing the scroll position. And you also have like render as you fetch. So like very common in mobile applications, when you scroll and then you reach the end or near the end, it automatically fetches the second page. Like uses like it paginates the second page. You've got offline support, as I've mentioned, the window focus refetching, and so much more. It's so amazing, and it's extremely good for server state. What is good for global and local state is Easy Peasy. So this other library there, and if you have ever used Redux, this is basically the oversimplified version of Redux without everything you hate about Redux. So it has zero configuration, no boilerplate, so you don't have all of these boilerplate and configuration files that you have with Redux. You have TypeScript support. You have like reactive actions, the state persistence, and even you can use the Redux diff tools with it, which is cool. The only thing I like about Redux. And yeah, you have also got React Native support for each of those. And I'm going to come to it in a second. And so someone might say, yo, you ever heard about bundle size? What are you doing? You're like adding 2, 3, 4, you're adding multiple state managements based on like what works best for each state type that you're using. And then I usually reply with this. You ship moment for like 360 kilobytes, and both of those are like nothing. Like both like Easy Peasy and React Query are 24 kilobytes. So enough talking. Let's like set them up. Get here. It doesn't exist. So we're going to get back to our application. And then we will set up first our React Query store. So I'm going to do npmi. And I'm using npmi here because with Expo specifically, they need the node modules to be hosted. So there's no like stuff that PMPM does with like symlinks and stuff like that. It doesn't work. So that's one unfortunate thing. You have to use npm instead of like your favorite package manager. So I'm going to install React Query. I'm going to show you how we can incorporate it with our GraphQL like query request. Looks good. So I'm going to go there to our apps. And then we're going to create a state management folder. This is it's a practice I used in the memos app that I've mentioned, just to organize the stores that I have. So in this case, we have a React Query store. And let's head to the documentation because some simple stuff just happen. Some simple mistakes. So we got query docs, and then we can go to the quick start, and this is what we need. So we just need to declare a query client, and we're going to pass the options that we're going to need there. So we need a GraphQL client, or not like a query client. And so we're going to have some options here, like the query cache. So this is how long it stores the whatever you fetched in the cache store. I usually set it to a day or so, const query cache. So it's stored until invalidated. So it's not like you're gonna get the same data for a whole day. It's good when you have you don't have internet for a day and you can still access everything that you have already fetched. So we're gonna do this query cache. 1,000, maybe 60. Are we gonna do the default options? And I usually like to do. Actually, you can leave it as is. You just need the query cache is good enough. We're gonna assemble the query cache. Query cache. Go here. I'm gonna do this instance. Gonna copy the query cache there. Put it there. Don't need unsettled, on success is enough. Boris declaration. And so we can also go to the default options. Yes, this is what I was talking about. So cache time, this is the query cache. And then we can do the stale time. We can also declare it here. I usually set it to 5 minutes. So stale time. So this is when a data is declared as staled, and should the query, the React query, would try to update it when it has a chance. When it has a chance, you're unfocused on a specific screen, so it can reload it in the background, or you just unfocused on the app entirely, so it has a chance to update it without you noticing. And so we're going to export this query client, and now we have this. What we're going to do is, if we head to the quick guide, we have to wrap our entire application with this query client provider, and this is used so that there is a place that is re-rendered very, very less often. so that you can store like things like cache and stuff like that. You can maintain some sort of application data without it being erased from a re-render of a UI component. So we can go to the app.tsx. We can add this query client provider, import it, and then we can pass our client, our React. Did we mention it's React? Yeah, it's query client. So React query client. We're gonna get it from there. And then once we have this set up, we have the app.tsx, which is our entry like root component. And it's wrapped with our React query client, which is gonna store all of the data that it needs to function as I've described, like maintain this like state and logic that's gonna use to provide us with this like smooth experience. And we can go to one of the components that you have, which is the only one, like the list state. And then we're gonna change this a bit. So now we can do a function that does cons get boxers list, and then we can do this query and this access request result. We can do async here. So what we're going to do here, as you can see, when you do a query with the React query, you have this use query hook, and then you can use a query function, which is whatever function that abstracts how you fetch the data. In this case, we're abstracting our access call, which fetches our GraphQL like query. And I'm going to get to the query key in a bit, but we can copy this here. And so we can import use query, and then we can do boxers. And this query key is what you use to invalidate the data or invalidate the cache using this key. And this is also the key that you can use to fetch the data from the store, from the asynchronous store that stores all of the data that you have fetched. So this is really cool. This is, of course, going to be used inside the component. So we can get rid of the use state because it already provides us with a hook that synchronizes like the data availability. So we can use here, and we can use get boxers list. We can return the data here. And then what we get here is a lot of things. So you can get the data, which is, of course, the main thing. You can get when the data was updated, all of the stuff about the errors. You can get if it was success, if it's stale. So if the data is already stale, and it's based on the configuration we set earlier. And we can have even like a state that says, is refetching? Is it currently refetching in the background? Which can be useful if you want to render something. So we can say an error loading is loading state. So we have got a few important things here. So we can use these states to render if there's an error, if there's loading. We can do that real quick. So if it's loading, we want to return an activity loader, which is a special like a special component that React Native provides, which maps to the native component in each target, like iOS, Android, Mac, Windows. It maps to those native components, native loading indicator components. So we can use this. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for the loading and error, I assume that's, those are only true in the case where there isn't even a local copy of the data. Is that correct?
Can you repeat that?
Like, when is it marked as is loading or error? I assume if there's no local copy of the data, or if it's, I'm assuming it is loading isn't true if it's just in the middle of refetching, but it still has a local copy.
You can clarify that.
Okay.
So in the data, what happened initially is that data is going to be undefined,
Right.
error is going to be undefined, and is loading is also going to be undefined. These states get like initiated the moment the component is rendered, and then the data or the is loading becomes true, And then once the component, this get boxes list is done, if it throws like an exception, this is going to be caught by this use query hook, and then it's going to update the error state. So now the error is going to be something, and the is loading is going to be false. So it's like automatically updated based on the events that happens within this get boxes list, which is being listened within this hook. Yeah.
Right, so yeah, so then my question is, let's say that after that state, let's say that you get a success state and you have data locally, and then it goes to fetch again to like refresh the cache.
Yeah.
Will is loading become true while it's doing the refetch, or only while data is undefined?
So it would differ based on when the data is being refetched. So for example, if it's being refetched in the background, so you're not going to see anything. It's just going to be like there's no point of updating the other states because you can't use them anyways if it's like the app is completely in the background. But if you are on the screen that has the stale data, it's not going to be like refetching it while you're at the screen, because that would trigger like the scroll position where you lose your scroll position. You can be like, for example, in my like gallery app, you can be at like the 80th picture, and then once it's updated, you're like all of a sudden just jumped to the start. So how it works is that it would update it in the background unless you specifically force it to like just clear out everything and then like load a new state. And then in that case, the is loading is going to be true. And then you can load like a loading spinner. And the whole list is going to be, it's not going to be shown at that time. Any more questions before we continue? OK. So we have this get boxes. We have this, so we load, or we return this. And we can set a color to something like red or blue. And F error, we have this in React Native, which we didn't use like really HTML. We use like things like text. So text is like a special component that maps to like the paragraph. And we can do error message. Not message, it doesn't have message. OK, so it's unknown. We can just add it there. And since it's unknown, we can just, yeah, for now. Typically, you would add a generic here, so you can have like the data type. And you can use things like GraphQL code generator to get like these GraphQL queries generated in like TypeScript types. And then you can pass here like a boxer type, and then everything here is going to be typed. You're going to have like data, dot, and everything that's accessible on this data, and also with the error. But for now, to keep it simple, we're just going to, or we can just add any here, so we can avoid any other issues like in here. Or we still have this, so maybe we can just override it here only. And so we have access to these data here, which is none. Oh, actually, so this result has this data. We need to add data. That was the issue. It's weird. OK. And now we can go here and refresh our app. Not this. npm run iOS. Now we can see if I do I. Remove this and open the app again. Now we can see it. Like you would actually notice all of the features that we have described only if you have like a phone in hand. This is where you really see how smooth the app is. When like it updates, when does it update, and how does it update? How does it maintain the scroll position, and things like that. And as I mentioned, I'm just using Axis here for simplicity, but you can use any GraphQL client based on your needs, because, for example, Axis, it doesn't support like advanced features, advanced GraphQL features like, I don't know, subscriptions and stuff like that. But I avoided like things like the popular like GraphQL clients libraries specifically because they have a cache store inside them. So that then we have like two cache stores, like a cache store in the React Query and another cache store in the whatever GraphQL client you're using. And so this would have to have like a workaround where you skip the another cache because you're not really using it. You're depending on the React Query cache because this is what it was doing all of the like the smooth experience that the user is going to be experiencing. So now we have it here. I'm just gonna. So now we have the state here. So if I do R, it's loading. Any questions so far?
So that use query when it detects the data is stale and then it refresh. After it refresh, that data will automatically update it, right?
Yeah.
And then you trigger the re-render.
Yeah, exactly. And it's based on the configuration that we just described. So this is where you define when is the data stale. In this case, it's after 5 minutes, and when the query cache is stored. So even though it's still stored there. So for like an entire day, as we have seen here, so that when it has the possibility, an internet connection to update the data, it knows that, hey, this is still data. We'll try to update it when we have a connection. If we don't, we're just gonna like fall back to showing the still cached data for like a day in this case. Any more questions? Okay, so we're gonna get to the second part, which is the easy peasy part. So this, oh, what is this? Library. So this is the library that I was describing. We're going to install our easy peasy library. I'm going to shut this down. npm or install easy peasy. Okay, maybe I could connect to the GraphQL conf. Let's try again. Yeah, that's much faster. Okay. So now that we have this, we're going to create another file in our state management. We're going to call it easy peasy. And this is, as I described, where you're going to store everything in like the local and global state, as I've described in this slide. Which one? This one. So this is where you're going to store the global state and the global actions, and the local state that you're going to have. So things that are like stored temporarily but are synced everywhere. Let's get back to this. So, as you can see here, it's super, super simple. If you have ever dealt with Redux, this is like the complete opposite, even though it's inspired by many of the like the concepts and how it works. It's a completely different API. You just create a store here and add everything as like fields with what you have in like the state. And these are actions, anything that is wrapped with the action function. So we can create this as an example, and then we can modify it a bit to our needs. So common uses of this can be, I'm going to show you the like the memos thing app, just to show you what things are usually stored there. So things that are usually stored there in the easy peasy store is like access token. It's an authenticated state. So these are all the global state that the entire app depends on when it shows like a different screen, a different like profile, and different components. So we have the profile, and this is going to be set after we get like a profile data. We have the theme. This is like local state. This is like the theme of the app. It's just colors, and it changes based on the user's like needs. And we have like an asset index. So this is like which asset have you selected? Are we currently selected? This is used to like show a specific picture in like the gallery app. You have like upload in progress, the files count and uploaded, and you have these actions. So as I mentioned, in like Redux and EasyPeasy, they have these two important things, which is a state, and this is just the data, and the actions. The actions are the functions that mutate these states. So you have things like update, upload, progress files, and this is where you can add like a payload and add these data to the global state, which is the upload progress files that we have here. So everything here just mutates what's above, and of course there's no like order in mind. It's just you can place it anywhere. It's just a matter of organizing it. And as you can see also here, if you have ever dealt with Redux, you have this Redux thunk, which is a wrapper that handles asynchronous operations. And this is exactly what's happening here as well. So anytime you have like an asynchronous operation, you can just wrap it with a thunk. Yeah, and that's probably it. You can go there, GraphQL conf, and maybe add like an authenticated authenticated state. You can say it's set to false by default, and then we can add to logged in user profile. And then this could be just a null. And what I've also didn't mention yet, which is after you create this create store, you have an option to add a generic with the like a store like this. And then this is where you add all of the types for your data. So this is where you add like what data can it access and stuff like that for TypeScript, which is really cool. So we can do that as well there. So we can go interface, then we can go to store. You can store it somewhere else, but it's fine to put it here for now. So authenticate it and set boolean logged in user. This could be just name, string, age, number, and this could be our store. So what's going to happen here is that, so for example, this here, it says that you can just set it to null because it's not set here as being this or no. So we're going to do this. And I will show you now how to access this store. So of course, again, you have to have this like global provider thing, because this is the only way it can maintain state or data without it being constantly like resetted after each re-render of the application. So we need to have this store provider. We're going to also export this. So we're going to go to our app.tsx, and then we can do the store provider, and then close it here, and get it from EasyPeasy. And we can rename it here, so it's not just store, because it's kind of confusing with the other store. So EasyPeasy store, and we can do here EasyPeasy store. And so what we have here is we have used store state, and this retrieves all of the state object that we have defined, and you can access it via like the dot. And what's really cool here is that unlike with other state management libraries, here the exact field that you select is only what's returned as like the state field. So for example, in some other state management libraries, when you have this use store state and you have state and you have like state.todos, if you mutate this todos, this hook is subscribed to the whole state. It's not just the todos. So what's really cool about this Easy Peasy library is that it subscribes to the specific field that you have accessed here. You want any question? Okay. Thank you. So, yeah, so you're subscribed to the specific field. So if you mutate something else, this is not going to be triggered as like, hey, data has been changed. Let's re-render the component. So these like very small features, but it adds a lot of value when like a user actually uses the application. So we can have those as an example. So we can go here to our list. What can we do here? Maybe we could add, let's refresh here. Oh, we have it disconnected. We can add an input to have your name here. So we could add another thing here. Input username. And then we can add this component, RFC. This is just a shortcut for making a component. We can't use this dev because it's React Native. So we can use this view, which is equivalent to a dev in React Native. And as I've mentioned, this maps to whatever is dev in like each target, like iOS, Android, and whatever. You can add here. So we're going to do this. Import it here. And then we can add to the Easy Peasy state, for example, a new state. So we can just remove this and add a name. So it's going to be a string. And a name here, we're going to just set it to that. And then we can go here. And as we have seen in this, we can subscribe to a store state, and we can subscribe to a store action. So in this case, we want to get the name. So it's state. So as you can see here, that's one also thing. So we're not getting the types here. And there's this trick that I had in my previous application where I had to make these typed hooks. I just create a typed hook and then pass in the store and re-expose each hook so I can have the types that I need. So I can go to back to the app again and add this typed hook. And so we can get this one. I can also add types here so it matches the structure. And the store state here, I can add Easy Peasy store. Export, and now I got it. And so I will just re-render this, or not, just import it. And now I have the type here. So object letter name does not exist on store because, oh, that's another store. I need the Easy Peasy store, Easy Peasy store. And now we have the types here in our store, and we can go to the usage that we have here. And instead of using the use store that comes from Easy Peasy, we can use this custom hook that we've just re-exposed, which is this one. Store was Easy Peasy store, I think, yeah. And so we can use store state. But instead of importing from Easy Peasy, we can import it from our typed hook. And as you can see here, we can get name. And if you add everything here, like anything, change here. So you have type safety here as well. We can remove this. And we can now subscribe to the name store field. And we can have a change name where we subscribe to the actions. So we don't have an action right now. So we can go to our Easy Peasy store and then add an action that says change name. And as I mentioned, you have to wrap it with the action. And what you get here, you get the state, everything that you have in the state right now, and the payload that it's passed from the action dispatcher. So the action dispatcher is this thing. So anytime we use change name and then we add something here, this is our payload, which is then passed to our handler. So we have here the entire state, we have the payload. And as you can see here, you can see it should be typed here. Yeah, I need to add this to our actions. And so I can check how it was typed. And so to type an action here, you just wrap it with the action and the entire store. So you recursively like mention it, and then you add the type of the payload that you have. So we can go here. You can say that this is an action. We're going to import it from Easy Peasy. And this is where you reference the store, which is going to be like the state that you're going to access to change. And we have here the payload. In this case, it's just going to be a string, which is passed to update like the name. We can go here now, and as you can see, we can access it. And also in the Easy Peasy store, we can have a state. We can now access the entire state. In this case, we're just going to access the name. And then we're going to just reset it to the payload that we have received. So now what we have is we have a type safe store. We have type safety also in the actions that you have. We have type safety in the dispatching, or when you use the hooks that subscribes to the state and changes the states or mutates it. So in this case, we can go to the input username, and now we have type safety here. And we can do just a text component, which maps to the paragraph, and do name. We can import it here from React Native. And then we're showing here the name. So let's run this, iOS. And so we're going to see our thing here. Where is it? It's input username. Input username, it's before the list. Maybe I can add it afterwards. Oh, because it's currently set to none or nothing. That's why we don't see it. So we can go to the store again and say, for example, Easy Peasy store, and we can say it initially to my name, which is Yassin. And now we can see it at the top here. And so we can add a dispatcher, like the change name action dispatch. And so we can do here an input. Was it text input? Yeah, it was text input. We can set the value to our state, to our name state. And we can do on change. So on every change of that, we need to access the value and call the dispatcher, the change name dispatcher, with the payload. So in this case, it's going to be, I think it's eValue, if I'm not mistaken. Target? Yeah, exactly. Target.
Value, right?
Yeah, but this is like the HTML version. I think in here is like maybe context. We'll see. I'll just log it here. And so we should have now a text input. Okay. Oh, it's set to the, yeah, we don't need that. So we need another state, const name text or name input, and set name input, use state, and then we can set this to nothing, and this is the name. And we can do this. So let's make sure first. So this is the entire e.target. Let me just Google it. Access value, text input value. I think it's, yeah, where is it here? Set text. Oh, just that, on-change text. That's convenient. On-change text, just as the value, and then you pass it here. So we don't need that. We're just gonna set the change name. So we're gonna, on changing this text input, we're gonna dispatch this action, which is change name, which is gonna change the, or mutate the global state, which is the name. And then it's gonna reflect here. So if I do this and go there, Marcus. Oh, come on, that's a different language. So it's going here. And what's cool about this is not local state. You can go there, like you can have a state here. So if this was just local state, we can just use like a use state. But what's cool here is that this state here is accessed from whenever in the app. So you can subscribe it from like another component, say new component, TSX, RFC, and then we can subscribe to the name here. It's accessed globally, so it's not just in that specific component. So I can give this text. And do the name here. And so instead of having the name rendered there, I can just do it somewhere else, because I can, because it's a global state. I can go to the app and say here, new component. So what I'll see here is hopefully an input. Where is an input? Is it here? New component. What? Oh, did I? Input username is still there, but maybe here. Maybe I'll set its value to just. Does it exist here? Yeah, it does exist. I just didn't see it. So I can do here, and I can do. Come on, Yassin. Old, yeah, different languages. Why does it change languages? Yassin. Oh, the caps lock changes the language. Interesting. So it's, as you can see here, these are two completely different components, and they can access a global state and mutate it. They don't have to be within the same scope. And as I mentioned, what's really cool about Easy Peasy is that we're only subscribed to this specific field. If anything else changed, this is not going to be re-rendered, which is efficient. I think that's about it. Anyone have any questions, thoughts, arguments, things I didn't mention or cover?
Hello.
Hey.
So when you were setting up React Query, I've used React Query a bunch, but I never have set cache. I've just used like whatever like default you get for that. So I was curious, why did you need to do something other than the default for the cache?
So I think the default is about like 1 minute for the stale time and like 5 minutes for the cache time. In many cases, you would want the cache to be longer, so that data is accessible if there's no way, like no other way to access the data. If there's like no network, so it's not like a blank page. It still shows like something. Like this is applicable for like a gallery app, like a news app. In many applications, actually having stale data when there's no other way to fetch any data is actually useful. So that's why like I set it manually. But you can just leave the defaults if it works.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Thank you. Any question? Yeah? Or you can use the mic.
Sorry.
Cool.
Yeah, for the state management, you mentioned about different options over there. Just curious, is this very specific to React Native and mobile apps, or also for the web development?
No, this is like any app, like any. So I can go to the same slide here. So we were talking about the different kinds of states. Yes. So local state is available in any application. We have also global state, the server state. This is like in any application. Either it's a desktop, a mobile app, a web app. You probably need some sort of this. And the URL state can be like a web specific, but it could be translated to like which screen are you on the application, the mobile application, or the desktop application. So yeah, this type of state is where are you in the application. This type of state is anything that's fetched remotely. And global state, is, as you've seen, is any state that's mutated and rendered on like a global level. So you don't have to have like a pass like the props down hell for like 15 components.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. My question is also about like, is easy peasy recommended even for the web development over Redux?
Yeah,
or is it primarily for the React Native?
It's actually primarily for the web. So
Okay.
the React Native support is like an extra feature, but it works really, really well.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, I think we're done here. Thank you.
Thank you so much.